Over there you have the Kardashians. Over here we have the white trashians.
Are you talking about the research done by Chris Reber, Sexual Hookup Culture, a review?
Yes, I am. That's the one.
Using scientific research
And our own personal stories,
we are going to form
a dating hypothesis.
In conclusion,
It's biology.
it's presumptive.
It's hypothetical.
It's interpretive. Hey everyone, my name is Kayla.
And this is Rachel with Dating Hypothesis. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where are we supposed to get healthy role models for long-term relationships?
I would say real life and not media. In the olden days, that's how they did things. There was no TV or social media to go off of. At best, there was newspapers or books, the gossip at the salon, the men would sit around at the hardware store. Old couples that were married for 58 years, do you think they were happy those entire 58 years? Probably not. There's probably plenty of fights and arguments. They didn't have social media weighing in on all that. They followed their own rules. When something was wrong, they fixed it. A great old adage I've heard a few times: when a light bulb is burnt out in your house, you don't burn down the whole house. You replace the light bulb. You fix the little things. You don't give it all up just for that.
When I think real life role modeling for relationships, I think of farmers. They understand what a year means. You get the land ready, you plant the crops. View your marriage like this, view it long term. Understand that building something now will sustain your future. Kayla, is your relationship about how you feel today, or do you have a long-term mentality?
Long-term mentality. If I live my relationship day to day, there is no way that I would still be with my husband almost 12 years later. There's days we fight and I hate him, but I remember our long-term goals are the same. We're happy together and there's always the good days. We spend lots of time chatting about similar things. We have interests that we share and interests that we don't share that we listen to each other chat about. But if I had a day-to-day mentality, there's plenty of days where I would end my marriage just because I'm freaking tired of hearing him talk about metal detecting.
Of my 4 marriages, the 2 that lasted the best, we had very specific long-term goals that we would talk about, get excited about. We shared together, not this weird maybe concept. It made the little bickering day-to-day seem inconsequential. It made it seem like little day-to-day bickering. So you didn't get all caught up and dramatically into these stupid little fights. You were like, okay, so we're having a bicker, whatever. And the 2 marriages that didn't have those little fights became the thing you would focus on because it's the only thing you had. Who gave you the best real life advice as far as relationships go?
Oddly enough, it's someone who I've met through my work. He's been a longtime customer of the family shop. He and his wife have been married, I believe, upwards of 50 years now. It was honest advice. Things like, don't go to bed angry. Make time for each other. Don't fret over the little things. Most of all, remember, marriage isn't a short-term idea. The goal behind a marriage is to make it last forever. Do they always? No. But if your goal is to make it last forever, fix the little things before the big things cause explosions. What about you, Rach? Where did you get your best real-life advice from?
Hands down, the best real-life advice is from my ex-boss. I nannied for this family. The woman was incredibly patient and kind and caring and loving and giving. She would see me make some poor decisions. She stepped up one day and said, "What results are you seeking out of this? What do you want your end result to be? And is the behavior that you're participating in right now, is what you're doing today going to get you those results?" That was the best. When I was a child, the first person that gave me good life advice was the next door lady. I was anywhere between 9 and 13. I was sitting in her kitchen watching her be a mother. She was feeding me, of course, because we were always hungry, and she is where I went to get food. I had watched her do the dishes, make snacks for the kids that would come in and out of the house. She washed the counters, she washed the table, she mopped the floor. 2 minutes after she got done mopping the floor, the 2 little kids came running through the house with muddy shoes on. They ran through the kitchen, went in the bedroom, grabbed a toy, ran back out. Very distinct mud patterns of shoes on the floor. She didn't start screaming at him. She didn't yell, "Can't you see I just mopped the floor?" In her mind, obviously, they couldn't see that. They weren't in the house. They didn't know. She just shrugged her shoulders, got the mop back out, mopped it again, and then locked the door, the screen door, so that the kids would have to knock when they came in. She didn't get angry. I saw this patience, this kindness in her. I saw a love for her family, a love for being a mother. An hour later, dinner was done. Her husband came in the door. The house was clean. They hugged, they kissed, they talked about their day, and then they kicked me out so that they could have their family dinner. To me, that wasn't advice, even though it was. It was the best real-life advice that I got, even though she never said a word to me of wisdom. I was watching somebody love her life fully and completely. And that has been a hardcore part of my inner personality that I think that I absorbed from her.
You know, it's interesting that you learned from watching someone rather than specific advice. We learn so much from what we watch. And a lot of people nowadays watch so much between social media, television, streaming, whatever it may be. They learn their concepts of love and marriage and divorce through all these things. We watch dramatic TV shows about relationships. Somehow we're okay media dictating how we go through these things. Well, it was on TV, that must be how you do it. I have friends and family members who try to live these pretend TV lives. They expect each day to start out with a certain drama, and it's ridiculous. Why are we okay with media being a huge factor in our everyday lives? It teaches us how to treat our partners.
It's dramatized when they have these problems and then solve them within the half an hour time span of the comedy drama television show. I don't believe it's a good place to get advice on how to have a relationship.
Where do you think you get the best media advice from, Rachel?
That's an interesting question. My mother raised us without a television, so the TV that we would watch, all 5 of us kids would run next door, go into the neighbor's house and sit down with their 3 kids and start watching TV. Their mother would come out and see 8 children in the living room watching TV, and she would kick us all out. And we'd be like, "But we want to watch your TV." She wasn't thinking, "Oh, you poor kids. You never get to watch TV, so of course you can watch ours." She was like, "Get the fuck out of the house, man. Go outside and play. I don't need 8 kids in my living room." And then I raised my son without a television. I still don't have a television. Well, you don't need a television. You have your laptop, you have the internet, so you're streaming Netflix and Hulu and Vudu and all of that. I'm not. I don't have Netflix. I don't have Vudu. I don't have Hulu. I'm not sitting on my bed watching a season of Game of Thrones. That's just not something that I do. I'm reading a book. I'm doing my homework. I'm sleeping. I'm writing podcasts. My brain just doesn't function on that television. When the lockdown hit, I got super depressed and lonely. My kid said to me, "Mom, just get Netflix." He knew me. He knew this was going to be detrimental to my mental health. He said, "Get Netflix, turn it on in the background, and just keep it playing." It didn't help. It made it worse. Having that nonsense chatter in the background about drama shit I didn't give a shit about, this made up fake drama, and it was annoying. So I would turn on a Netflix show and I would sit there and search through 20, 30 shows, a couple minutes at a time. Their voices were annoying, the drama was annoying, the music was too loud, whatever it was. I finally gave up, tried to do music. I'm the type of person that I need real life interaction. Music is okay, but music is better if someone else is there listening to it with me. TV is better if someone else is there listening to it for me. So I'm not able to glean advice off of TV. I more get annoyed by it. I more nitpick the story or the plot. I'm like, "Oh, I could write that better." I would have to say the best media advice would be books. I can read books and glean important information from it, absorb it internally, make some positive changes in myself. Of the types of books, relationship books, science books, love science, person with a PhD doing that kind of research, which there's plenty out there, some really good books. Have you and your husband ever used those types of books in your marriage?
I'll be honest, we haven't. I've heard of some great ones, but we haven't. We did go through marriage counseling, which was useful. I've never done any of the relationship books. I think the closest I've come is like a chicken soup for the soul type book at one point or another. I have heard of the triangular theory of love, and it was developed in the late 1980s by psychologist Robert Sternberg. He says we need intimacy, passion, and the decision to commit.
Yeah, that sounds logical. And that's the good thing about these relationship books is they're logical. It's common sense. Is it you're reading it and you're getting blown away by this amazing advice you'd never heard? Maybe if you live under a rock. More along the lines, it's developing good reminders. You having an inner intent, I'm going to fix this about myself. Because you should never go into it, I'm going to fix this about him, or I'm going to fix this about her. It should be, I'm going to fix this about myself. I'm going to do this on my part to help the relationship, knowing full well if you change your behavior, your attitude, it has no option other than to change because you're changing.
I saw all of those relationship books on your shelf. Have you read them? And furthermore, which one of them is your favorite?
I have read them all. Sometimes I read them repeatedly. There's one that I read 7 times. I have used them in my marriages. They didn't work. I'm divorced 4 times. They did help, definitely. Some of my partners had zero interest in reading the books with me. So it was all me on my part in 2 of the marriages. 2 of the marriages, they were interested. They were like, okay, let's do this. Because when we tried couples therapy, it just felt so fake. I've never been to couples therapy where either one of us felt like it did anything positive. It felt like save all your bullshit for the week and then give it to the counselor just to see who would win over their approval. No, listen to me. It's my turn. Blah, blah, blah. Do you agree with me? None of my partners appreciated that. The books, we could sit down in our own time. We didn't feel money pressured by the hour. We could go as slow as we want. We could skip anything that didn't fit us. We could tailor the book to us. Just like prayer or meditation or mindful intent, these books help keep you in the right headspace. I believe in total I've read 22 different self-help books or scientific relationship advice books. I only keep 5 of them just for personal self-help issues. The Brain in Love, The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands, Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, 10 Stupid Things Couples Do to Mess Up Their Relationships, Keeping the Love You Find. So those are my favorite, where I have highlighted pages, put sticky notes in them, but there's nothing being modeled. Personal modeling, having friends that have good marriages, having family members that have good marriages is a lot better because you're seeing those things in action. If everyone you know has shitty relationships, treating each other poorly, you're getting more bad advice on a daily basis than you are good advice once a week from a counselor.
Most relationship interactions should be neutral. Your day-to-day, week-to-week, and month-to-month. It should all be neutral. As life happens, you will have ups, promotions, and happy events, weddings, children, meeting certain goals. And you will have downs, death in the family, illness. But most of the time, should be coasting along at neutral.
If they decide to take up smoking, but you guys are saving to buy a house, you're like, cigarettes are really expensive. Maybe you should not have a daily habit that's expensive so we can buy our house first. Once we've purchased the house, then you can take up smoking. Kayla, what is a bad habit that you do that's unhealthy in your relationship?
I'm really bad about focusing. I will get zoned out in something else, some of my own thoughts, or doing a project, or pretty much anything when my husband's trying to bring up important topics or just hear about my day. I admit to it. I know I am. I don't know how many times he's had to put his hand on my phone. Hello, I'm talking. I do it. I'm bad at it. Let's face it. By all technicality, I'm a millennial and we like our phones. And I will get zoned on the stupidest things while he's talking to me about something important. I don't know what that weirdness is with me. It's not good. He deserves my focus when he has something important to talk about, or even not that important. If he feels that he needs to share it with me, he feels it's important. I should probably work on it.
I was dating somebody, he thinks all people in relationships do this. The first thing you do is text one of your exes. If you're having an argument with a partner, he thinks it's how people ease their own anxiety when things are unstable. When I told him, no, absolutely not, that's the last thing I would do. If I am going through a rocky point with a partner, they need my attention, they need my focus. I need to go inward and think about my behavior, what I'm doing. I need to see how I can redirect us into a better place. If I pick up my phone and start texting an ex, I am shitting on a pile of shit. And he was kind of blown away by that. He was like, well, I never thought about it that way. If you're on the phone texting an ex, that's you not trying. That's you making it worse. It took him a little bit to fully process that.
We all have our failings. You probably have one or two, Rachel, right?
I have too many to count.
Sounds like you destroy men. Kind of brutal. If our listeners want any good advice, I highly recommend not dating a sociopath if you are not willing to be the most committed, devoted love machine.
I guess my unhealthy habits are impatience, being too controlling, pretending I don't know you're cheating while I save screenshots so I can send them to your future girlfriends, relatives, and exes to warn them what a man whore you are. And I do know my worst quality in a relationship is being relentless. When I see a bad habit forming, I will hound your ass until you stop.
Being relentless is a good work and school quality to have. It's not good to relentlessly hunt down your partner's negative qualities.
Definitely not. A lot of my exes have zero ability to think long-term in a relationship. One in particular, all he could focus on was today. He would not think about yesterday. He would not think about tomorrow. If you're like that, that's especially bad. You should at least be able to talk about yesterday, last week, last month, last year, your childhood, and you should definitely be talking about next week, next month, next year, your retirement years. It's normal for couples to talk about retirement, maybe not the first couple months of dating somebody, but if you've been with somebody for a year, to see if you guys are at least on the same goal path. Because if you have distinctly different goals, you want to retire when you're 50 and your partner's like, absolutely not, I'm not retiring till I'm 75. That's a little bit of a gap. I asked an ex what he was going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years. He had little kids. He was living his life like he was going to be this famous tennis star in a couple of years, drowning in women and money and wealth and fame. And he was devoting everything he had into these tennis lessons like it was super important. When I, as a casual outsider, looked at his long-term future, I could see him still being a dad in 5 and 10 years based on his current patterns, inability to save any money. He was going to be in the same apartment. He wasn't going to be in a serious committed relationship because that wasn't his goal. That wasn't his focus. So he's going to fully raise his children in a series of bad relationships. But he didn't see that. When I asked him what he was going to do in 5 or 10 years, he was a deer in the headlights. He had no clue that he was still going to be raising his kids, that he was going to still have the same job in the same apartment, still bouncing relationship to relationship until his kids were 18, and that this was going to be what they had seen growing up. There was no focus in him. There was no long-term understanding of his life.
Just whatever you think is going to happen is going to happen. Because that way then he can be that famous tennis player just drowning in hot chicks and wealth. And like, what do you mean his kids won't just be grown up and he doesn't have to like worry about it and stuff?
It was like what was going on in his mind, these dreams, was more important than the actual reality he was living in. It's all about what chick he could get to blow him that night and who he could get to pay for this or that so he had extra cash for tennis lessons and alcohol. To him, women were a source of free babysitting, cash, and sex.
Sounds like you two are probably not on the same path.
If it feels like you are in a relationship with someone and you're not on the same path, you might want to find someone with the same long-term goals, someone willing to build a future with you, someone you trust. All the crap that I have read in magazines, I don't recall this actual grandmother advice Kayla, did you read magazines as a teenager? What were they teaching you? How did it mold your understanding of a romantic long-term relationship?
I had J14 for anyone who remembers that publication. It's no longer around. It was a teen magazine trying to teach you about relationships and what was cool and how to be pretty and sexy, because that's what my 13-year-old self needed. And they were terrible. It wasn't about real relationship advice. It was how to wear the right black dress to get his attention, or if you wear these booty-shaping jeans, every guy will fall at your feet. How to please your man 10 different ways in the doggy style. How to make sure that he has multiple orgasms. All these stupid things, and not a single one that I've ever read focuses on the real things. Pretty sure 3/4 of what I've read in magazines would probably make my husband run for the hills. Let's look into each other's eyes. Let's be romantic and build things and get to know your partner's body. Not every person wants to be tied to the bed. There's so much you need to know about what your partner loves and needs.
Comfort comes with time, not the newest position. When a magazine, TV show, or girlfriends in a conversation make sex about position, then position makes sex a show. Is my back arched enough? Instead of, am I lovingly, nurturingly connected to my partner? Is that possible to model to children? Should you be modeling it to children? Can you write about that in a magazine, in a book? Can you write that into a TV show? I'm trying to remember if I heard adults talking about these things when I was a child. So I had aunts, several of them. I remember them talking about shaving their legs before they would go to the bar. Commercials will convince you that it is death to not be smooth at all hours of the day. Magazines will say shit like, if she's shaving in the morning, then she's not shaving for you. She's cheating. And it's like, man, I don't want to feel that scratchy shit all day at work. I'm shaving for myself in the morning.
Folks, from experience, in Minnesota winters, I am not motivated to shave my legs because who's going to see them anyway? My husband doesn't care. He's focusing on a whole lot of other things when there's intimacy going on. My legs could be patterned shaved. I could have tiger stripes shaved into my legs, and he would not care.
All right, I want to ask some of these questions to listeners. How often do you shave? How long has your relationship been? Does your partner run his hand up your calves and then up your thighs? Noticing that silky smooth touch that the commercial made you buy the certain product for him? Does it work? Is he navigating towards those perfect legs? Write into us. Let us know how to fix the media's influence on our relationships. What should they do? How can they actually give us good advice? How can TV shows be better role modeling for relationships? Do you like the media's influence? Are you a parent? Do you avoid the media influence? How do you keep it from impacting you negatively? Do you know anyone that lives off the grid? I would love to hear stories about Amish or Mennonite families, couples. How do you navigate without the effects of media? Is it ruining your life? Because there's so many people that look at me like, wow, you poor thing. You don't have TV? And I'm like, you're the poor one. You're addicted to TV. You don't even say hello to your husband when he gets home from work. So please write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back.
Children are sponges. They are blank slates. And media will start influencing their thoughts as soon as you put them in front of a screen. What is louder, the media or you as a parent?
What did media teach you about relationships when you were young? When you were a teenager and you had a teenager brain, what were you absorbing? What were you and your girlfriends chatting about at school? How important was the media advice versus your parents' advice? Were you even getting good good advice and role modeling from your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your neighbors?
The media told me boys will write poems and sing songs to me after my friends give me a makeover. I start out the super nerdy girl and they take off my glasses and straighten my hair and everyone will fall in love with me. And I will always have these super tight-knit friend groups that hang out all the time. We're together like 24/7. Families will sit at the dinner table all together.
How often are these characters switching partners on these shows? Every time the TV comes on, they're with someone else.
How many times would you get to the point where everybody on the show had been with everybody else?
And we're letting this influence our children. How are you going to counter the media effects of romantic relationships from all of this crap? Are you being a good role model? Are you teaching them what they need to know? Are you living your current relationship as if your children can see and hear you? How you're supposed to treat your partner, how you're supposed to save for your future, how you're supposed to plan long term with your partner. Are you teaching them that? And what's louder, the TV show they're watching or you?
I like to talk with my boys about things. I try to give my opinion on the things they see on TV. Let's say a character does something that's rude or mean. I'll point it out. Say some brother character shoves a sister character onto the floor and it's not pointed out. I make a point to say something. You shouldn't do that. We should be kind to our family. We should be kind to our friends, these kinds of things. I can be mad as hell at their dad, but I'm not going to say, your dad's a piece of shit to them. Instead, I'm going to say, I'm a little frustrated with daddy right now. I don't like the choice he made. I've learned so much from one social media influencer that really has conversations with her kids, and it's explaining the things they see and the interactions day to day. I grew up with a family that my parents argued a lot. It was normal for their parents screamed, fought, argued with each other. I want to break that cycle. I try to have the honesty with my kids. I mean, granted, they're 3 and 4. It's still important to teach them right now. Like I mentioned, they're sponges. At this age, they're learning how to deal with their emotions. And I remind them that it's okay to have certain feelings, but you have to respect others.
I watched TV as a child, Tom and Jerry cartoons. What stuck in my brain all of these years was Pepe Le Pew and him chasing after these, were they skunks, were they cats? He would grab that cat and he would start kissing up her arm and squeezing her. And I just remember thinking to myself, yeah, that's what I want. I want a guy to just grab me like that with that passion and squeeze me and kiss me up. No man has ever taken my hand and kissed me up my arm to my neck. But the one that does, he's gonna be my 5th husband.
I want to be at that wedding. Even cartoons are unrealistic on relationships. As parents, we look at it as, oh, it's a cartoon, no big deal. It's just silly little kid humor. There's quite a few cartoons that I've sat down and watched and then immediately decided, I don't know if I'm going to let my kid watch this. And then there's others that I'm like, this is a beautiful example of how a family should run. There's one show in particular that I love watching with my kids, and it's a dumb kids cartoon TV show about a family of dogs. The parent dogs have these good conversations with their kids about relationships, family, marriages, and making good choices. I think that show is more written for the adults. Not even gonna lie. It's fantastic.
On the rare occasion I have watched television with my son, usually a movie, I'll stop the show. We'll have a movie on, we'll have the popcorn, we'll be watching, I'll hit pause. We'll go into this deep discussion. It's probably what caused several of my divorces, because what adult likes having their show paused every 10 minutes? You can launch into these discussions. It takes a 2-hour movie and turns it into this 8-hour ordeal. So it's like all day Saturday we're watching this 2-hour movie, and then we get into the science about it, and then we're Googling stuff up. And my husband's over there like, please kill me now. He's Googling the end of the movie. How does this fucking show end? If you're gonna use media to your advantage, it takes patience, resilience, and a willing partner. We were at my sister's house. All the kids were in the room watching TV. This Lucky Charms commercial comes on, and I saw the way my son was reacting to it based on the way the other kids were reacting to it. And I went in, hit pause, and launched into this discussion about super sugary cereals sold as breakfast. And my sister's just like, yeah, you're fucking crazy. It's a commercial. And I'm like, dude, this shit is so wrong. I just can't.
I remember my mom talking about my sister when she was little, holding this little container. There was these commercials back when she was young about Parquet. It was like a butter alternative thing. And she would literally open the container and mimic the commercial. Parquet, butter. Parquet, butter. And my parents were like, I didn't even realize you connected with this. The media does not have to control you. You can control the media. I don't think our listeners are going to start pausing their shows to engage in intellectual conversations with their mates.
There was only one boyfriend that would indulge this quirk of mine. It was my favorite boyfriend in the whole world, shout out. We would talk for hours. I would show up at his house at 9 o'clock at night. His head would be at one end of the couch. My head would be at the other end of the couch. Our feet would be together, or we'd be sitting face to face in the center of the couch, and we would just start talking. He would talk. I would talk. Sometimes, and I'm not kidding, we would have 2 entirely separate conversations together at the same time. He would be in this full-on conversation. I would be in a completely separate full-on conversation. We would be talking on top of each other, intermingling, answering each other's questions, continuing our separate conversations. It was crazy. Non-stop talking. He would pause. He'd go, "Oh, I'm hungry." And he'd look down at the clock. And it would be 3 o'clock in the morning. We did this for a year and a half. Every time I showed up, it was our thing. We were like, sit down for a minute and catch up. How'd the last week go? Blah, 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 blah. 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd be like, fuck. What? Why does this keep happening every single time? It would get to the point where I would come in and he'd be like, no, don't just sit down. Don't talk to me. We have to eat first because it's going to be 3 a.m. before we realize. And then I would just sit down just for a moment and then he'd sit down. Boom. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We're like, fuck, we did it again. This particular perfect human being, every once in a while we would watch TV. He would let me pause it. He let it enhance our relationship. We didn't have to sit down and spend 2 hours watching stupid shit that interfered with our relationship or sucked up all our time. It spurred interesting conversations on topics that we would not have come up with on our own. It enhanced our conversations. Instead of turning it on so we didn't have to talk to each other, we turned it on and then hit pause every 5 minutes and had these interesting conversations. There's so many people that will sit down with a book or a magazine and read it alone, and their partner has no idea the world that they're immersed in or the conversations that are happening between the characters in the book. It's not something you share with a partner. It's something you do on your own so that you can leave your partner alone so that they can do what they're doing alone, which I guess is healthy for a lot of people. It's not healthy for me. I would rather my partner put his book down every couple pages or whenever he was particularly interested in what he was reading and converse with me about it. Bring up these conversations with me. But too many people find that annoying, which is, I think, why I'm attracted to people with ADHD. They're more likely to stop what they're doing and then share. The average human being who doesn't have a personality disorder, who doesn't have something like ADHD, they hate it when you interrupt their viewing or their book.
I grew up with TV. My parents watched it. I had a TV in my bedroom. I probably watch way more than I should. I have multiple streaming channels. I'm not even gonna lie. It can affect my marriage sometimes. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. Certain shows are really fun because my husband and I will talk about them. We'll watch some kind of movie where one of us knows a lot about the topic. We'll joke back and forth about how, oh, that's not how that works, or oh, this isn't right, or oh, that would never work that way. Other times we get zoned and we ignore each other's existence. I have certain TV shows. I give him so much attitude if he interrupts because I want to be paying attention. I do think it can be bad because you do get sucked into, oh, I want that reality, even though it's not reality.
It's a competition for your attention. I like what you were saying. I see media as vying for our attention. You've got the books shouting out to you, the magazines shouting out to you even louder and more dramatic, and then the TV, watch me, look at me, I'm going to dance for your entertainment, look here, look here. We want our partners to do that. We want our partners to burst in the front door after work, singing and dancing to us and spouting love poetry with a bouquet of flowers. I missed you so much, and grabbing you and Peppy Le Pewing up your arm, vying for your attention, like, look at me, and now I'm looking at you, and you're the best thing I've seen all day. And we don't do that to each other. They come home from work, they're tired, they're exhausted. we're tired and exhausted. Everybody's tired, everybody's exhausted. There are several unhealthy aspects about this vying for your attention. It teaches your attention is something to vie for. Most of life is boring. Most of life is mundane. The drive to work is the same. We need to share these mundane experiences with our partners so that we have day-to-day connection. Find a way to connect. Don't make them jump around dancing and singing for your attention. Just give them your attention. Another bad thing about the way we live in today's modern society in general is this idea of convenience. We have convenience stores, fast food, the quick fix advice in a magazine. Like, oh, you can fix your whole life with this 3 steps of advice. And it's like, no, you can't. We should be happy all the time. And if we're not, we should go buy a new car, go on expensive vacations, drink lots of soda. As a result, we end up in debt, divorce, unhappy. We believe what the media is telling us.
Some of these tampon commercials are trying to convince us women that we should be full of joy and doing cartwheels and, oh, our menstrual pain just won't exist if we buy the extra super pretty sporty maximum in purple clickable tampons. We can run down the beach and leap into our true love's arms because we made sure that we bought the ultra ones instead of the standard ones. I don't know a single goddamn woman with any brand tampon or pad that wants to do somersaults down a beach into her true love's arms.
Are you not tampon happy?
No, I'm not tampon happy.
I'm not pharmaceutical commercial happy. I was at my friend's watching TV, had no idea how pervasive these pharmaceutical commercials had become in the last 20 years. Oh my God. Every second commercial was this robotic, mechanical cartoon woman shuffling her way through life. And then she takes this magic pill and the whole world becomes colorful and luminous and beautiful. And she's functioning normally, and it's like, wow, I hadn't watched TV in years and I was hooked. I was like, damn, give me that happy pill. Shit.
I want pills that make things magical and happy.
I feel fine and I want that shit. If you're not making me happy today, I have a right to be angry, upset, and if need be, I'm just gonna take this happy pill instead of nagging your sorry ass.
We have music that does the same thing. We have pop songs. They convince you love is over the top. There's always these dramatic stories in these songs. The breakup songs, they're a death sentence. This continual roller coaster, up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, for the love of God. That's not healthy. Justin Bieber wrote a song about being lonely. And I tell you what, the emotion in that song is some of the most real and pure emotion I've heard in particularly pop music in a long time. He talks about, yeah, I've got all the fame, I've got all the fortune, but I'm still lonely. They have mansions and they're on TV and they make millions of dollars. It's not that great, actually. I have all these people around me and I'm still lonely.
Social media is making us think we'll never be lonely. If we're on this social media, we'll be surrounded by thousands of friends and we can see their day-to-day lives as they post. I'm on Facebook. What am I seeing? What is this social media? Nothing but a bunch of fucking memes. People are throwing up 50 memes a day. I want to see your kids. Show me what socks you're wearing today. I want to see what you're eating. I want to see if you clipped your toenails. Just show me real pictures of your life right now today. Your 20-cent coffee ground crap.
Girl, where are you finding 20-cent coffee?
Yeah, make it at home from a huge giant bag of beans, man.
But I like my mocha choco loca doca lattes. Rolling into this whole Instagram thing. It's not their plain oatmeal. It's fancy. It's perfect. It's beautiful. They spend 45 minutes plating a friggin' peanut butter and jelly sandwich trying to make it fancy. Instagram perfect. I have made an effort when I post Instagram posts of my family to allow my wild little wispy baby hairs that I have and to let there be marker on my kids' faces. That's real life. My kids looking perfect in a button-up shirt with no wrinkles? No. Again, 4 and 3. There is no staying neat and perfect.
I'm being persuaded to leave a relationship the moment my romantic expectations are dashed. When I read advice on Reddit, the comments, all you can see, leave him now, run, dump his ass. Sometimes I just want to go in there and post, I asked him to take out the trash and it's been 3 hours.
You need to leave him right now. Run, dump his ass. How dare he fail to do that one simple task that he maybe was just a little too tired from the rest of the day. Come on, people, our own sense of entitlement.
When media acts like I deserve it, then I act like I deserve it.
Today's society and culture needs a heavy dose about what you want next year, in 5 years, 10 years, and how to go about working for that together.
And you should look for a partner with that ability. If the people you're dating don't have this ability, is that what you want to be stuck with?
How can we do all of this in the hookup culture?
Snapchat, Tinder, welcome to the hookup culture. Get it fast, get it easy, get it now. You don't have to invest anything, no time, no energy, exactly what you want right now, tonight, tomorrow. This endless stream of one-night stands, no foundation, no building, no trust, no getting to know each other, no comfort. When I was married, the easiest way to keep the marriage intact was to go weeks without voicing any concerns. Just peace, just letting things go. And yet, when you're doing that with a hookup, when there's just peace and letting things go, who's getting what they need? Are you getting your orgasm? Are you getting your comfort? Are you getting to know each other? Are you building something long term during this peace and letting it go? Or are you hooking up with someone and going with what they need and with what they want right now, and then 10 minutes later they're gone and you never see this person again and you didn't get what you need? When I'm at home and I'm lonely and I'm scraping through Tinder, I want comfort. I want trust. I want a foundation. I want peace. And a hookup isn't peaceful.
Porn is ridiculous. Let's face it. Anyone who's ever made an at-home sex tape will tell you it never looks like the porn. When you're actually having enjoyable, intimate, loving, nurturing sex, there's not space for a camera to see things. Your bodies are close. They're tangled together. In reality, both teens and adults learn some really unhealthy things from porn. People think they have to stand a certain way because, well, that's what they do in the porno.
Yeah, if you're doing porn on your girlfriend, she's faking that shit. If you want real sex, then you have to give her real sex. And if you're basing what you're doing off of porn, so is she, and she's faking it. If it's all about the position, then it's all about the position, and all you're getting from her is a show. All right, we're going to take a break soon, but I want to know from you guys, what has media taught you about relationships? What are you worried about what it's teaching your children? Can you see your teenagers being affected by it? What do you want to do about that? What do you wish you could do about that?
Tell us your stories. How do you counter what the media is teaching your children about love? And have you managed to cultivate long-term relationships from something like Tinder or Snapchat? Connect with us on TikTok or YouTube. We're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back. And we're back.
When you read to your children, explain your thoughts about the book. Don't just blindly, mindlessly read the same book over and over and over to your children to get them to shut up and go to sleep. Every once in a while, interject a conversation about that book. Find out what they think about that story. If they keep making you read the same book over and over, ask them about the story. Talk to them. Use these things as a launch point for conversations. If you're reading a book and your spouse is sitting next to you, engage with them every once in a while. If they're reading, ask them about what they're reading, but that probably won't be received well. Try it a couple times, see if they're into it, but if they give you dagger eyes like, fuck bitch, I'm trying to read a book, maybe don't do it more than once or twice.
And when a commercial or show strikes up unpleasant feelings in you, please engage in discussion with your children about why.
Why you don't need a happy pill to make you happy every day, because real life isn't being happy and blissful every day. Sometimes, for years on end, life is just boring. And that's okay. Use the pause button. Agree on a show or movie that you're going to watch purely for the purpose of interrupting the show and having an interesting discussion, just to get to know each other, your opinions, your thoughts. When a movie rubs you the wrong way or gets you excited about a concept, or if you're curious about what your partner thinks about a certain topic that was brought up, pause the movie. Invite your date or your partner to discuss it with you. Find somebody that is willing to use media as an intercourse between the two of you. I invite you to use media in a way that enhances your interactions with your partners instead of disrupts interactions with your partners and kids.
The end of a movie gives you feelings things have already wrapped up. It doesn't invite discussion other than, did you like it?
For the last 12 years, I have been messaging myself on Facebook every interesting topic that I wished someone would talk to me about. I ended up creating this podcast. You guys are the ones that I am talking to about these topics. It was worth the wait. Thank you for listening. Thank you for writing in. Thank you for engaging with me in this way. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're listening. I encourage you to continue seeking ways to turn your screens into conversation starters, not stoppers.
On October 19th, 2020, Teen Vogue published an article written by Jessica DeFino. Her article is titled, How White Supremacy and Capitalism Influence Beauty Standards. Her article is how we should use mainstream media to battle the evils in society. I applaud a teen magazine for allowing her to write this. I applaud her for such a great, in-depth article that indubitably has helped many teenagers come to grips with what they see versus what they feel inside when they are faced with today's media. Jessica tackles sexism, racism, colorism, classism, ableism, ageism, and gender norms. She is against how these contribute to anxiety, depression, dysmorphia, eating disorders, self-harm, and low self-esteem. Thank you, Teen Vogue, and thank you, Jessica.
We are going to share last week's episode audience stories, ideas. Thank you guys for writing in. Thank you for connecting with us like this.
First of all, I agree with the media effects on relationships so much because nowadays, so many young people use Instagram or something like that, and we see the negative or positive effects in this issue. We saw some influencers and some social media people, and they always recommend us some products, some makeup products or some clothes. It is a negative effects because they are so expensive for us because we are students and we don't have so much money. And it's bad effects, but there are so many positive effects also. For example, we need some products, for example, like makeup or some dress, and we saw the influencers' page, and we can buy, and we swipe up and we can buy like that. It is the positive effects. We saw on Instagram or some applications like that, the girls is type because they have big lips, big lashes, and smooth skin, tall. It is the negative effect because everybody cannot be like that. Everybody can be natural. So my mother always said you should be natural and you should be yourself, and we shouldn't look always the only type of the girl. I watched Me Before You. For example, Me Before You is so good movie. I watched it and I really like it because girl and man loves each other so much, and we saw how love is good. It is so beautiful movie. And the girl, I think, ugly. The main character and ugly, and I like this issue as moral.
One of our listeners states they think media is a nasty evil. It definitely portrays unrealistic ideas and views on relationships. What we see, hear, watch will always influence us. Also, we tend to pay more attention to things that are currently part of our lives. So if I'm looking for a new relationship, my eyes are going to find the media things that are about relationships versus somebody who is pregnant and is looking for all the information about pregnancy. And yes, Disney is fucked up. There's very rarely any sort of relationship on Disney that is actual, legitimately possible, and human. A follower writes in, media has been terrible for relationships. Couples with good conflict resolution skills and communication skills don't make good entertainment. So many of us grow up without seeing proper representation of what healthy even is. We either have unrealistic expectations or the bar is too low, and there's really not much in between. I think a lot of relationship stress could be prevented if more people had healthy examples.
I would like to introduce next week's episode.
Body modification. Why? Is it attractive or unattractive? How does it affect mating and relationships? Tribal modifications in Africa? Does tongue piercing equal lesbian? Foot binding? Corset training? Botox and plastic surgery? Tattoos? Goth attire? Anime? Hollywood's unacceptance of aging? Untraditional ways to present yourself? Why are nose, boob, lip, and butt jobs considered traditional and acceptable, encouraged ways to present yourself?
We want to ask our listeners to submit your stories, ideas, and questions pertaining to next week's topic. You can email us or join our Patreon. We want to hear from you about body modification. Do you have any? Where? What? How? Why? When? Was it expensive? Were people open to it? Were they against it? Did they find you more attractive? Less attractive? Did it affect a partner or a spouse or a relationship? What do you have done? Show us photos. What have you tried? What have you been curious about? Has anybody out there done corset training? I'm sure nobody's done foot binding, but if you have, please write in and send me a photo.
Thank you, everyone, so very much for listening.
We love you! See you next week on Dating Hypothesis.